Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. The ground is finally drying out and we're planting potatoes. Also, irises give a great pop of color to a flower bed. Today we will learn all about them. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Tom Mashur. Mr. Tom is a Tipton County Master Gardener, and Joellen Diamond will be joining us later. All right, Mr. Tom, welcome back to the Family Plot Garden, sir.
Well, thank you, mister. I always love coming back here. And we are going to be planting potatoes.
So it's potatoes, right?
Potatoes.
Potatoes. All
And we call them Irish potatoes
Why do we call them Irish potatoes?
to distinguish them from sweet potatoes.
Ah, okay.
That's the only reason.
Okay.
Even your reference manuals call them Irish potatoes.
Okay.
But we'll be using seed potatoes.
Now, what are seed potatoes?
Seed potatoes? Well, here is a seed potato, and this is a store-bought potato.
Okay.
Notice the difference.
I see the
The
difference.
store-bought potatoes are harvested, cleaned, cured, and then sprayed to retard any sprouting.
Okay.
Seed potatoes, on the other hand, are unwashed, right as they come out of the garden, and they're not treated.
Right.
So obviously we got a lot of these, and this is what we want,
Right.
are these little critters.
Okay.
Now, we can plant the whole potato, or we can cut it in pieces and plant individual pieces to increase our crop.
Okay.
And the way we do that is to take a cutting tool
All right.
and look at the potato and look for an area that's got at least one beginning sprout.
Okay.
Here we got one, two, three,
That's got a lot of them on there.
4.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and cut this one here apart from the rest of them. It's nice to have a sharp knife.
Oh, yeah. Right through it.
Just like that.
Okay.
Then I'm going to do this piece right here. Well, actually, there's the beginning of another one right there, so I'm going to take both those. 1 or 2 is pretty good.
All right. Does it matter how deep you have to cut those?
No, not really.
Okay. All right.
There is one thing you got to do, though. You want to do this at least 2 or 3 days before you actually want to plant it.
Okay.
And here's that big one, but I don't need all this potato for it, so I'm going to
Cut up a little
cut
bit.
them a little bit there and a little bit there. And that looks good.
Ah.
But one of the things you want to do is you want to cut it up 2 to 3 days before you're going to actually plant it,
Okay.
so that it develops a skin or a callus over the part that you cut, which will help it prevent it from rotting in the soil before it starts developing roots and whatever that is.
Okay.
And when we plant these potatoes, we want to plant them between 3 and 5 inches deep, or right in the middle is 4 inches.
Okay.
And then you plant them 12 inches apart, 36 inches, 30 to 36 inches between rows.
So
I like them a little bit closer. Just as long as you can get into them and harvest them with a lifting fork, rather without stepping on other plants.
Sure.
So I will go with a little bit wider than I normally do.
Okay.
Normally 18 inches will usually between my plants.
Okay. It's enough space.
Okay, well, these babies, and I have a bunch of them already cut up,
Okay.
are going to go into the ground.
All right, let's get them in the ground. Let's see your special technique for
Well,
getting them in the ground.
my special technique is getting on my hands and knees.
Ah, okay.
Now, I also like to cheat, keep my wife happy from cleaning up muddy clothes.
Ah, there you go.
I like these.
Okay.
One thing I also like is old floor mats in cars.
It's a good idea.
They rather than tossing them out when they get uncleanable.
Yeah, watch that.
There we
Watch
go.
that one.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think about our soil here?
Well, it kind of should be a little bit finer,
Okay.
but
Because you like it fine. All right.
yeah, this is cool.
Okay, it's fine.
And I got a trowel here that actually has graduations on it, tells me how deep I'm going. So I'm going to shoot for 4 inches.
Okay. Let's see how good you are. All right.
Are you going to come back and measure it?
Maybe.
Okay. All right, well, there we go. Well, one nice thing about it, it's going down very easy. I don't have to dig very hard.
Oh, that's good.
So down we go, shoots pointing upward,
Pointing up. Okay.
or as best you can do it. And then do that and go over.
Ah.
Sometimes I cheat
Uh-huh.
and I planted it there, so I'm gonna go 12 inches. Normally if I got plants I can stick up, I can look at it, where approximate what I want to do. Just take that. This one's got an eyes right there.
Okay. Shoots go up.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And I think I won't use this anymore because now I got an approximate idea what 12 inches is. Does it have to be exact? Eh.
Now, does pH matter or anything like that?
Well, yeah, it kind of likes
Okay.
pretty much slightly acid, as most vegetables do.
Sure.
Let me go down a little bit deeper. I don't want Chris to get on my case. There we go.
How long before the shoot actually
Breaks through the
emerges
soil.
from the soil?
Maybe 10, 12 days.
Okay. Not long.
No. But I also, at my age,
Got the label.
I have short-term memory, so I always make mistakes.
That's smart though. Red potatoes. All right. So how much water would they need?
You don't want too much water in the beginning.
Okay.
And like most vegetables, they don't like to have their feet wet, but they do like a moist soil. This one here would probably come up pretty quick.
All right.
All right, the last one's in. Now, a couple things to keep in mind
Okay.
that to again increase your production, when the plant starts coming up and gets up around 12 inches or so, then you need to heal it up with either soil or pine straw or wheat straw, and cover it up all but the top 3 or 4 inches so that it will produce tubers within the raised area or the straws. Keep it in mind, you don't want the sun to hit any part of the growing tubers. Otherwise they're going to turn green, they are toxic, throw them away.
Oh, throw them away. All right.
Okay, and if you're a container grower, this type of container is great for one potato plant. Just put about a third of the soil in it, plant it, and then as it grows, again, add more soil or more pine straw or wheat straw. And again, you'll get some clean potatoes. When it's time to harvest, and you'll know that is when the foliage starts wilting and dying back, then wait an additional week to 10 days, and then go ahead and start digging up your potatoes. Now they do have potato forks that have like 9 to 11 tines close together for lifting up the potatoes without damaging them. They're kind of expensive though. But if you got a digging fork, they'll work okay. Time to cure it, which means harden it off. Ideally you want it like in a 60-degree area, but here in the Mid-South, ain't gonna happen. Not in the summertime. So I put it under the shade of a tree, spread them out, and let them cure for a week to 10 days after that. By the way, the prime planting time is from March the 15th to April the 15th, also from 1st to 31st of July for a fall crop. Nice thing about growing your own potatoes, you're going to have a hard time trying to find seed potatoes in July. But the potatoes you're growing, since they're not going to be treated, are seed potatoes. So you save some of those for your July crop.
All right, Mr. Tom, we appreciate that demonstration.
Thank you, sir. I
We
enjoy
will
doing
see
it.
what happens, right?
I am anxious myself.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm hungry for French fries now. Thank you much, all right?
Thank you, my friend.
Yes, sir. There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. All right, Joellen, let's talk about iris, all right?
Beautiful
and
iris.
iris is the state flower.
Iris is the state
How about
flower.
that? The
Yes,
state
they
flower.
do very well here.
Yes, they are beautiful. So why don't you tell us about iris?
Yeah, they are very regal blooms
Yeah,
in
beautiful.
the spring, and May is their major month that they bloom here in our area. But you know, some of them do rebloom and will bloom again in the fall. And this one here that's blue and white, it is one of the varieties that I have that reblooms again in the fall.
Huh, okay.
So there are a
didn't know
few
that.
of those out there that will rebloom again in the fall, but
Okay.
they put on the best show in the spring.
Well done. Okay.
But they do. And of course, iris is a Greek word that means rainbow.
Ah, I didn't know
And
that.
for,
Okay.
of course, the Greek goddess of the rainbow is called Iris.
How
So
about that?
that's interesting.
Uh-huh.
And of course, some people think that it refers to the many colors in the rainbow that iris represents. So that's why they are called iris
Okay.
as a genus. And of course, there are over 200 species around the world of iris. So, you know, they all look similar because they have one thing in common is how their flowers are formed. As you see, they have the 3 outer leaves that are called falls because they seem to fall down. And then there are 3 petals on the inside that stand up, and they're called standards. So when they describe them, they describe the color of the falls and the color of the standards. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different.
Okay.
And so, of course, these beautiful flowers have inspired the French royalty to use them as their fleur de, in their fleur de lis, starting in the Middle Ages.
Wow.
And so you saw iris on coins and shields and their coat of arms. So, and of course, Van Gogh painted his favorite, his iris painting is very famous. And so, and the 25th anniversary flower is the iris also.
How about that? Okay.
So, of course, our state of Tennessee, and it's funny, I moved here from Illinois, and of course, the soils here in Tennessee are very different from the
I'm sure.
soils
I'm sure.
in Illinois, let alone the climate.
Right.
And so my mother brought along iris, and she had them in little bags, and we had a little area of dirt, and of course, this didn't look like the dirt we were used to.
Right.
So my mother said, well, they're either going to die in these bags or they're going to die in this soil. So we planted them. But you know what? They did better than they ever did in Illinois because they love the soil here.
Right.
And then we found out it was the state flower, and we're like, oh, wow. And you can just literally throw some of these rhizomes on the ground, and they'll root and take root and live.
That's good.
So they love our soils here, and they do very well in Tennessee. And there's a lot of different kinds, and we're going to go over some of them. First, we have the Iris cristata,
Cristata. Okay.
the dwarf crested iris. It is only 3 to 6 inches tall.
That's all?
Yeah, it's very short. It's one of the first to bloom in the spring too. But it usually they sell the bulbs or the rhizomes in the fall, and you plant them in the fall and they come and bloom in the spring. And they will naturalize because they are native to this part of the country.
Okay.
And in fact, they are native up to Ohio too, and in the Midwest and Southeast. And of course, if they find the right place, they will multiply and get bigger and larger clumps of them in the same area.
Cool. Okay.
And so they're usually in the blue family of lavenders and things like that. They of course like sun and well-drained soil.
Well-drained soil.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And as we go through the iris, you'll notice some like well-drained and some are drought tolerant and some like wet areas.
Oh, wow,
But
okay.
this one likes well-drained soil. Next is the Iris hybrida, the Louisiana iris, also native to the South and to the Mississippi Valley from Ohio on down. So they have very large, showy flowers, but they're going to be tall, like 2 to 3 feet tall.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty
They
good
will
size.
also bloom later in the spring. very easy to care for, and because of the ease of care of the Louisiana iris, they are very popular all around the world.
Oh,
So they like sun again,
wow.
moist but well-drained soil.
Moist.
So they
but
can
well
get
drained.
wet, but then they like to dry out before they get wet again.
Right.
So they like to have well-drained soil, but they're really not particular about soil type. So that's why they are very popular for many countries and besides us here, and they're native. They're native
Yeah,
for
they
us.
work here. Right, right.
They're native for us.
Okay.
And of course, there are a few others. There's the Iris pseudochorus and the Iris versicolor. That's the yellow flag and the blue flag iris, and both of them like wet conditions. You can put them near ponds, and they aren't particular about their rhizomes being out exposed.
It doesn't matter. Okay.
And then there's the Siberian iris, which is native to Europe and Central Asia. Caesar's brother is probably the most famous blue of that.
Okay.
It's 2 to 3 feet tall. And of course, the Iris tectorum, the roof iris. And it's called roof iris because it's native to Japan and to China, where it used to live on thatched roofs in that country.
Okay.
But it can take a lot of drought. You can think about it on a roof.
Right.
So, and next is is the bearded iris, Iris hybrida, the bearded iris.
Okay.
This is what most people think of when they think of iris, but there are many other kinds. They bloom in the spring, and it's best to divide them in July, August, and September. And you want to wait to reestablish them. You want to give them at least 4 to 6 weeks to reestablish in the soil before the frost comes.
Okay.
So that's why they said those 3 months are good for dividing them. What happens is they'll bloom, and then where they're sitting, they're going to get energy to bloom again. Then you cut them off and divide them, and then they'll be more likely to bloom wherever you're planting them.
Okay. I got you.
And of course you want to get a large. You want to set them about 12 inches apart. Here's one I've dug up, and the larger area you have for the rhizome, the more likely it's going to bloom the next year. Like this one came off of it also. But this rhizome is not much rhizome left. There's some roots. This will still grow.
Okay.
But there's not much This probably will not bloom the first year. It'll have to produce a better rhizome to be able to bloom. And when you
It's a pretty good root system.
pretty good root system. And this one's the rhizomes are all different sizes. This happens to be a much larger one. And you'll notice the roots are on the bottom. And that's what you plant in the soil.
Okay.
But you really want this exposed because they like to have sun on the rhizome, for the bearded iris especially.
Okay.
A lot of the other iris you don't have to, but for the bearded you do.
Okay.
And if you are going to plant these, say you divide this and you see how large this is, well, it's already got the energy that it needs in July, in August, and September for blooms next year. So you want to cut off this foliage,
Look at that. Okay.
because you're going to plant this in the ground. And if you go to the Iris Society website, they've got a really good picture of this, but it's nice to build up a little small area, and you see the roots get spread out all over it. And then you just can cover it up, just the roots.
And that one likes well-drained soils, right?
This likes well-drained soil, and it likes that rhizome
Be
exposed.
exposed. Okay.
But you see how the roots were all fanned out? And it sits there, but it's not sitting. Well, sometimes you can get landscape fabric pins or just some kind of wire, and you can stick it down here and anchor it so it'll stay and get rooted, and then in a few months, in a few weeks, you can just take the stakes out, and it'll be rooted there.
Okay. Wow, how about that?
But try to keep the rhizome exposed.
Has to be exposed. Okay.
And a lot of times,
how much watering then?
well, you're going to have to water this when because the roots are very new and on the very top of the surface. So you want to make sure you water it and keep it moist.
Keep it moist. Okay.
But don't keep it wet. But
Okay.
just moist, and until it gets rooted, and then you can take the wires off, and then you'll have another one. And you're supposed to space them about 12 inches apart because they will get very crowded.
Okay. Before we have to end, any major diseases or insect pests we need to be concerned about?
No major diseases or
That's
pests
good.
with it. None.
Beautiful plants.
Gorgeous.
Thanks, Joella. Yes, a state flower.
State flower.
All right, we appreciate that good information. The beautiful plants, which are yours, right?
Those are mine.
Hey, good job, good job. Thank you much.
Last year, these Anthony Waterer spirea were covered in scale. So we drenched them with a systemic insecticide, imidacloprid. And look how beautiful they are this year. We didn't do a soil drench on one of them. This spirea did not get any insecticide. And you see how awful it looks. It's not as pretty as the others, and it still has evidence of scale on it. So we will be treating this again this year. Those don't have any, this still does, so we will be treating this shrub so it'll look as beautiful as the others.
All right, here's our Q&A segment. Y'all ready?
Yep.
These are real good questions we have here. It's our first viewer email. I have wisteria seeds. How do I get them to sprout? And this is from Cat Mom via YouTube. So wisteria seeds. Somebody wants to grow wisteria.
Wow.
How about
yes,
that?
That's
All right.
nice.
All right.
Well, you know, the seeds are after they dry out, you can, before you plant them, you need to soak them in water for
Okay.
about the night before.
Okay.
That'll break that seed coat. And then you plant it an inch in a container in some nice moist soil, about an inch under the surface.
Okay.
And then it needs, this is the problem, it needs
Here's the problem. Okay.
65 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 to 60 days.
Ooh.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So, you know, but you think about it, in the wild, especially around here, we have wisteria growing wild in the woods. You imagine the seeds in the fall drop to the ground, and they get covered up by leaves, and then we have cold weather. We have
Yes.
65 degrees for 30 to 60 days, so that's why they would most likely
Sure, makes
germinate.
sense.
But if you can give it 65 degrees for 30 to 60 days, then it will germinate. Then you have a nice seedling that can take up to 15 years before
15
it will
years?
bloom.
What a commitment.
Yes, that's really, and that
15
is
years.
exactly why most people will buy them. Well, you know, the seedlings that are old enough that are already blooming, because they don't have that long and want to wait that long for them to be able to bloom. Now you might get lucky and it might start blooming at 12 years, but I mean 12 to 15
Oh, my
years
goodness.
is a normal time for them to go from a seed to a blooming plant.
Wow. How about that?
But you know, if you want to do it, that's how you would do it.
All right, Cat Mom, if you want to do that, patience, perseverance,
Yes.
right? It's going to take a little while.
It's going to take a while.
All right. But she wants to do it.
But
So
if you
let's
wanna do it,
encourage
I'd
her
say,
to. Right,
I
sure.
think that's great.
Yeah,
I
knock it out.
understand also that that the seeds and the seed pods are toxic. So if you are working around them, wear gloves.
Okay. All right. So be careful, Cat Mom. All right. Good luck to you. Let us know how that turns out. All right. So here's our next viewer email. I purchased a 4-foot tiller for my tractor. If I put the back flap down, it tills the soil fine. If I keep it up, the soil is about 1 to 2 inch chunks. Which is the best way to till my garden? Soil chunks or super fine? Thank you. This is from Richard from Greenville. So we're going to come to you, Mr. Tom.
Okay,
What
well,
do you think about that one?
as a man who likes tillers,
I know you like tillers.
one of the reasons why the difference between the chunk and the fine is when the flap is down, the sod is being thrown against it, and it bounces back, gets retilled again, so you end up with a finer piece. Whereas with the flap up, you're tilling it and again throwing it out without it being recycled. It's kind of like a mulching blade. We put a plug in it. The blade going around throws the grass against the plug, bounces back and cuts it even finer. So that's what's happening here.
Okay.
And I personally like the fine stuff.
I would agree with that.
I think Joella does too.
Yes.
Sometimes if you go out like around the cotton fields, they don't go through that trouble. They just be chunky, but then the cotton seeds don't have any problems in it.
Right.
But for vegetable gardening and so forth, finer is better.
finer is better. So
And-
you would
and
agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree that because that's what my husband has a tiller for the back of our tractor that he tills ours with, and yes, I like it nice and fine. But what the most important thing is to watch with how when you're tilling it.
Mm-hmm.
You make sure the soil isn't too wet or it's not too dry. It's just the right moisture,
Right.
because then you're going to get the right consistency of your the fine or the coarse
The Goldilocks
soil.
effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't want to be too chunky, too.
Yeah.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
All right, so there you have it, Richard. Yeah, thank you for that question. Good one. All right, Mr. Tom, still on the way out of time. It's been fun.
It is.
All right, thank you much. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we had time for today. We planted potatoes, but if you want to see videos on how to plant other kinds of vegetables, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.